for this very special edition of the journal, because we are not doing the regular journal notes, but we're interrogating a very interesting subject matter around names. I was saying just the other day, I discovered a new isiZulu name. I was like, what a beautiful name. Tubelihle. Oh my goodness. Imagine your parents giving birth to you and then just looking into your eyes and thinking, this baby is going to be a beautiful opportunity, and they are going to attract beautiful opportunities, which is what ituba is, or tubelihle, beautiful opportunity. Nomzamo, mushidi, masechaba, olufemi, ndivuwo. Oh my goodness, I could go on and on about how beautiful our names are in all the different African languages. But what's in a name when we look at African cosmology and African contexts? Because across much of Africa, names have never just simply been a label or something that we just call you. They are repositories of memory, of identity, and intention. A name may tell a story of the day a child was born, to honor an ancestor, like in many of our names that have been passed down from generation to generation. Reflections of, a family's hope, or to capture a defining moment in history. In many ways, our names are among the first gifts that we receive when we are born, and perhaps the first stories that we inherit here on earth. So as we look at things today on the continent and throughout the African diaspora, many people are reclaiming indigenous names as a way of reconnecting with language, with heritage, and with their identity. So let's have the conversation now and really talk about our names, what they reveal about us as people, the cultures, the histories that have shaped us over time. I've got on the line somebody who's no stranger to the program, Mkhulu Zulu, who is the founder of Kwa-Nobamba Family Spiritual and Mental Wellness Institute. Joining him as well as part of this roundtable discussion is Asabi, Olorunniyi, who is a cultural consultant based in Nigeria. Gentlemen, wonderful to have you form part of this conversation. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much. I'd like to start with you, Mkhulu. Mhlambe, let's look at the African cultures and contextualize this conversation, looking at African cultures, names, how they carry the history and identity, as I've mentioned it in my introduction. What do African naming traditions actually teach us about the values and worldviews of the communities from which we originate?
Good morning once more, and good morning to my colleague in Nigeria. Look, I prefer to even call it African cultural spirituality, because there's a connection there, they are interlinked, they work better together. So we are storytelling people, and everything about us tells our stories. Remember, we are oral people more than written stories. So everything about us connects our stories. It tells the story of you from birth, and it also tells a story of your lineage, your bloodline as well, and your clan. So African cultural spirituality teaches us that we don't do things that do not have stories, because we are a story. So when a child is born, that child is a story, and they carry their own story. Their life becomes that story itself, So I think because we are the storytelling people, everything that is connected to us then becomes a story. So as you live, you do have your own story, from where you come from and all that. So names were built out of that, So that is why when we name our children, well, today we name our children out of our own imagination and our own wishes. But before, children were named after people because they are a continuation of a story of a bloodline. So
Right.
our children were named after other people who lived before because they are carrying on that story. You know, they become a continuation of that story. So today it has changed. Obviously, the interruption of the colonial system when they came and interrupted our spirituality and start giving us their narratives and giving us their own names and all that. That was just to obviously for control. They wanted to interrupt who we are so that we become what they wanted us to be. So they wanted to kill the story of an African child so that they can then give us their own story. So after the interruption of the colonial system, there is what I would like to call a spiritual revolution, where people are asking these questions, especially young people. Who am I? Where do I come from? What is my story? And they start slowly reviving and going back to what are our African names and what is the meaning? You know, why are Africans named after their elders or after people who came before them, you know, and also what is in a name. What does it mean to name a child? You know, so I think that is our story because we are a story people. We are a story on its own.
Togo's. I mean, that is actually a little bit heartbreaking, you know, in that context of how far removed we are from the ritual of naming a child and continuing the story. Asabi, I don't know. Do you agree with that? Is this kind of a humiliation ritual that has become the naming of a child, or perhaps the question is when we do name a child? Is a deeper question not what does the name of that child mean, but perhaps what that name asks of the child? Maybe that's the question. Hey.
So naming a child, the name of a child is actually something we should not joke with. And that is why as Africans,
Hmm.
every of our names have meaning, not just meaning, those names comes with situations. Like he mentioned, like names come with situation. For example, as a Yoruba person that I am, when you hear Yetunde, that means the mother has come back, maybe the grandmother,
Hmm.
Baba today, the forefather came back. You understand? And that has helped us a long time. But now you hear names like, I hear names like Jadine, Jasmine. Some of these names, they don't know the meaning. And I think, like he mentioned, I'm sorry, I couldn't pronounce that name and I would not want to murder it because it's one thing I would not want to do. Is that when we don't know the meaning of names, most of the the, the parents we have now don't care about the meaning of the names they are giving their children. They rather want to go with how it sounds. Oh, that sounds sweet. No,
Yeah.
this is something you call a child over
Hmm.
and over again. It has to be meaningful because that will impact the child's life.
Hmm.
And that's where the spirituality of a name comes from. Do you understand? My name is Ashabi. Ashabi simply means selected, specially selected out of many. So uniquely selected. Do you
Wow.
understand?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So when I'm talking, say, don't you have an English name? I'm sorry. Let me ask an English person if he has a Yoruba name. So if he doesn't, why do I, all my three names, they are all Yoruba names from my culture that I know the meaning. But see someone asking me, we are Africans and we should be African from our names. But it's obvious that a lot of people now, they don't want to, especially those that have tried to go outside of their places and are in the European world. If I can force myself to call names like Christopher, or names like Trump, all of these names, they should stress themselves to call my name because it's meaningful. It's what connects you to the spirituality that we are. It's what connects you to the spiritual because Africans, forget it, we are spiritual by nature. We are spiritual by nature, whether you take it or leave it. I tell you, you can decide to go to church, you can decide to go to the shrine. You are just, if you decide not to accept it, you are only deceiving yourself. And that comes from our name because our forefathers have done a lot to keep us intact. So anyone trying to drift away from that is only doing themselves more harm than good. Because if your child is not having a name that is rooted in his culture and lost somewhere, how do you tend to connect back to it? There's this tradition that they say so person, the child of, for instance, Asabi, the child of. That means you are referring to your father, your forefathers. Do you understand what I'm saying? And because we have carry name, as I say, good name is better than silver or gold. It's actually the truth. But now
Mm-hmm.
that they are giving several, that's how children can decide to do whatsoever they are because you can't trace their roots. And when you cannot trace their roots, man, that child is gone.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
lineage is going gradually. So that's why I support him 100% sincerely. Names for Africans, I don't know of any other places, but for Africans, names are important. Not that even before you give birth to your child, I'm blessed with two, and
Mm.
even right from before I get them at home, I know their names. None of my sons behind Oluwade, meaning like the Almighty has crowned me. That's his name. So don't come and ask me what is his English. He does not have. So each time he hears that name, he's being crowned. He's a royalty. So he
Mm-hmm.
cannot dare to go and mess up somewhere. But if I look at Jasmine, I don't even know the meaning of Jasmine. Someone just woke up somewhere and give you a meaning to a particular name. And you pick it up. So Africans, we should tend to be African from our name, from our roots.
Right.
If we are losing it, if we miss it from the name, we have lost it. That's just
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Staying connected to our root system, as it were, as African people. And this is just actually just such a beautiful roundtable setting because we're looking at this from, Nguni cosmology, ways of being, and Yoruba ways of being. I mean, it's just so wholesome. Ashabi, thank you for that. And thank you for sharing the meaning of your beautiful name as well as we continue our conversation. I'd like us to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to look at this new culture of a reclamation. Well, it's not new, but how people are reclaiming their indigenous names and what rituals can come with that as well, and awakenings that can come with that. Let's take a break and return.
Africa World Hour with Mosito.
Kiswahili is one of the most widely spoken languages in Africa, connecting millions of people across East, Central, and Southern Africa. What does World Kiswahili Day mean?
Swahili Language Day holds a deep meaning for us as a country, as Uganda, and all our people really recognize this. It's a day that celebrates not just a language, but a powerful symbol of our shared African identity, resilience, and aspiration for unity. Swahili is far more than just a foreign language or foreign tongue. It is our second official language. It is enshrined in the 1995 Constitution and is also a vital bridge that connects us to our brothers and sisters across the East African community and even the broader continent.
Africa World Hour with Mpositole. Catch it on the Channel Africa app, SABC Plus, and on channelafrica.co.za. Weekdays from 9 till 10 p.m. Central African Time. The Journal with Mosito.
We're 25 minutes into 10 a.m. in Central African Time. We continue our conversation looking at indigenous naming rituals. What is in an African name? It's a very important conversation to have at this time. I think also now that we're in very sensitive portals astrologically, it just makes sense for us to have this sitting with Mkhulu Zulu, founder of the Kwa-Nobamba Family Spiritual and Mental Wellness Institute, joining him as well as part of the roundtable. Asabi Olorunniyi, who is a cultural consultant out in Nigeria. Thank you to the both of you for staying on the line. Mkhulu, I'd like to ask you about, this reclaiming. We're seeing a lot more people reclaiming indigenous names. Do you see it as a cultural trend, or does it reflect a deeper desire to reconnect with this very history that you're telling about, this ancestry that we come from?
Look, I don't necessarily see it as a cultural trend, but remember, I said when we started that we are a story and we are a continuation of those who came before us. So that is why I say it's a cultural revolution. It's us remembering who we are, So one of the reasons why. Sorry, I got interrupted there. I don't know what that was.
Not a problem. You can continue.
Yeah, are you still able to see me?
Yes, we can see and hear you clearly. Mkhulu.
Okay. Yes. So we are a continuation, and this is a reawakening. It's those who lived before coming back through us, and they are not necessarily reclaiming, but they are reminding us who we are. So if you
Yes.
look at it, most of our revolutions today are being carried out by the generation of the 2000s, and we always want to call the generation of the 2000 the lost generation because of the social influences that are happening around them. But you can see that there is a spiritual battle, that like they are bipolar, one day they are like this and the other day they are like this. But this is just the reawakening of the old spirits, being reminded of who we really are. And the way that it is happening is a bit hectic because, of course, there will always be criminality in these things. The culture of Ubungoma is being penetrated by people who call themselves prophets and all sorts of things, and people who just use the culture to make money and rip people off and all that. But there is a spiritual revolution that is happening, and we need to allow that to happen, because our children are the, our elders are waking up through our children, and they are reclaiming their space. So that is a spiritual revolution that is happening.
Absolutely. And how do you see this, Asabi, especially as a practice, perhaps in Nigeria? Are more people moving away from, calling themselves David to Olufemi, for example? What are you seeing in the Nigerian context at this time?
So presently, the Nigerian context, I would not say it's so obvious. People are changing names, but the new parents, like I mentioned, are drifting away from African names. In recent times, most of the naming ceremony I've attended are from here, Diana, here, Jacinth, here. I'm mentioning Jacinth a lot because I
Yeah.
actually had to ask them, you gave your child Jacinth. What's the meaning? She was just looking at me. That's what the father likes. Okay, father, come. You gave this child Jacinth. What's the meaning? I like the way it sounds. I don't get it. So that stuck in my brain. Like, I don't get it. The two of you had 9 months to choose a name for your child, and you did not deem it fit to do spiritual conduct, even if you are not that deep, resonate in your mind. Have a time to yourself and let's say, okay, what are the things you want to see in this child's life? I want royalty in my children's life. Do you understand? So that's why you hear something like Ade, you hear something like Demnade, you hear something like Adewumi. It all means I like crown, Adewumi. I love her. I want them to act like one. So what do you want to see in this children's life? But it's been, I know you've seen a lot of, I mean, if you conversant with a lot of these Nigerian celebrities now, you see a lot of them, yeah, Diana, this lady, and we recently did our own child naming. And I said, we are not in the season of Diana for all girl child, which is wrong. You have the set of people that are seeing themselves as they don't want, they want their children. One told me, I don't want the wife to stress themselves to pronounce my child's name. Why should they not stress themselves? But for us here, the new parents, they are not giving their children the African name.
Yeah.
Although we have the son, I don't know if we have the surname culture. The surname culture is constant. Because one was telling me, I cannot change the surname. The surname is still there. The Ajani surname is still there. So, but they need an English name so that they can belong. That's the word, so that they can belong. But for some parents like me, I would say I'm still young too, I don't give my child an English name, not even a baptismal name as a Christian, not even an Islamic name as our forefathers would do. That's another thing. So the Muslims are tilting towards Arabic names in Nigeria. You hear some names and you cannot pronounce them. Like, what? Are you Nigerian? He said, yes. And those that are really fanatics have even changed their surname. I have an uncle that changed his surname from our family name to an Abdul something. So when we meet on occasion, I tell you, he's my uncle. Say like, how? He's not. I will say,
Okay.
that's it. Do you understand what I'm saying? So for us, it's a big difference.
Absolutely. Asabi, thank you very much for that. Mkhulu, unfortunately, we've run out of time, but thank you for helping us to start thinking about naming rituals in the African context and what are we actually doing? This is not a random act of just naming a child and giving them a name because it's something that is now fashionable to just name the child whatever you want to name them, but really naming them for every bloodline in their ancestry is very important. You've really started us off on a good one in this conversation. We're going to continue on social media, but thank you to the both of you, Mkhulu Zulu as well as Asabi, joining us on the line in her capacity as a cultural consultant. We cross straight to the sports desk and find out what the latest is.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
We begin with netball news in Glasgow. South African national women's netball team, the Spar Proteas,